Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris Blair here, and I've got some really exciting news to share with you. The Listening Room is going on the road in just about 2 months. February 8th through the 13th, we're going to be heading out of Miami, going to the Bahamas on the Norwegian Gym cruise. We've got huge acts like Big and Rich, Gretchen Wilson, Craig Morgan, Jody Messina, and many more. We're also doing Listening Room Writers Rounds with writers like Kelly Archer, Phil Barton, Chris DiStefano, Liz Rose, Brett James, and me. I'll be playing a couple songs. It's going to be a lot of fun. And speaking of fun, there's going to be some really cool things to do on the boat as far as activities go, like belly flop contest, silent disco, trivia, line dancing, whiskey tastings. It's going to be an absolute blast. So come see the shows, get exclusive merch, and watch us do this podcast live. Just come hang out with us. Tickets and information you can find at bootsonthewatercruise.com. That's bootsonthewatercruise.com. Get your tickets today, and I hope to see you there. You're listening to Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at SBT Songs, or check us out at chrisblair.com. Hey, what's up, everybody? This week, we have got the amazing Sarah Buxton on the podcast, and we are here at her publisher, Smack Publishing, doing this series with them, which is awesome. You would know Sarah for songs that she's written for Keith Urban, Lady A, Big and Rich, Chris Lane, Florida Georgia Line, so many others. It was such an awesome episode. We're going to dive into Stupid Boy that she wrote for Keith Urban, along with Ocean and a couple others. She's going to share some advice from the industry standpoint in publishing and all of those kind of things. Just a lot of great things that we talked about. So let's get to it. Here is Sarah Buxton. Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris Blair here, and this is another episode of Stories Behind the Songs, the Smack Publishing edition, and I am here with Sarah Buxton. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Amazing solo artist, hit writer, dog lover, all the things.
I'm a dog lover now.
Yes. Well, thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for asking me.
Yeah.
Calling me out of my snuggly little home on this cold day.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I'm ready for some warm weather.
Yes.
Well, let's dive in. Talk to me about how you got into music in the first place. You're from Kansas. What got you to Nashville?
I got into music because music got into me.
Love that.
At a very young age, as most of us do that end up doing this. I was totally bewitched by the radio, specifically. We always had it on in the car everywhere we went. Oldies, the mix stations and like the pop stations, because back then pop played everything. I wasn't hip to country until a lot later, like in high school. But I loved Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and I never really thought that I would end up being a singer. I do have lots of memories of like loving to sing, but I didn't think that I could, probably because I was white, and most of the people that I listened to were not white. I got into choir. That was something that my mom got me into. There was a children's choir that began when I was 11 years old in Lawrence, Kansas. Around that time, I was also really involved in like a handbell choir, and I was really into band. I was a total band nerd.
What'd you play?
I played the flute.
Okay.
I was so into it.
I was a band nerd too. I played trumpet.
It was the best.
Yeah.
Like there's those of us that loved it.
Yes.
And I loved it. I remember the first time I ever looked at a flute, I was just struck by its beauty. And I was like, I just want to be a part of the beauty that is that instrument. So, but in choir, they put me in I had also been playing piano, and they put me in as an alto in this children's choir. And I didn't know it at the time, but our director was a really legendary woman named Janelle Crable. And she changed my life. Like, I was always really into, like, I mean, like, excellence, like trying to do a good job was like my main thing as a kid. And she was really strict, and people were like scared of her a little bit, and I loved her. And I think she knew that I loved her. She knew, like, we had this thing. And so she put me in as an alto, because as a kid, I really loved singing harmonies, and I was already kind of doing that with the radio. And those were like amazing times. I just remember different times of year, different songs that we would do in that choir. And it just hit me as a kid, the wonder and the magic of harmony and like singing with a group really just mystified me. I was totally captured by it. And I had two other amazing choir directors in high school that I really loved. So that was kind of what I was doing. It wasn't until I was 15 that we had a talent show at the end of the year in high school called Showtime.
Okay.
And I had never, ever sang in front of people before, really. And I was like, I had discovered country music. That was big for me because that was the first time that I was like, wow, I can really actually sing this. Like, I can't necessarily sing like Whitney Houston or like Mariah Carey or these people, but like Aretha Franklin, but I can do Patti Loveless. And I just decided to try out with Blame It On Your Heart by Patti Loveless. And I put together a whole skit for it. And like, I remember before I went out there for the first time thinking, this does not feel scary whatsoever. This, like, before I'd even done it, I was holding the microphone backstage and going, I am all about this. I am about to go have so much fun. And so that was what I did. And it translated. I think people felt that I was having fun. And I knew when I got off stage after that first performance, I was like, this is what I'm going to do.
You got the bug.
This is it for me. This is it. And so, yeah, I just decided to move to Nashville, and it was my biggest dream in the world to just like be in a band. Like I said, like with people, like singing with people. And I just wanted to be a lead singer of a band. That was all I really wanted to do. I actually also discovered Fleetwood Mac back then. Stevie Nicks was a huge, she was the original inspiration for me to be a songwriter. I remember my mom got me in that talent show. There was a group of people that were going to do The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. And, I'd never heard that song before. My mom was like, well, how did it go? You know, the Patti Loveless song, like how'd it go? Like at the rehearsals. I was like, it was fine. I love it. It was great. But there's this one song that people are doing, and I would give up every single song I'm doing in this talent show to be a part of that one song. And she was like, what song was it? And I was like, it's called The Chain. It's like, chain, keep us together. And they're all singing this, and it's amazing. And she goes, I think that's Fleetwood Mac. And, you know, my mom went out and bought me Rumors and their greatest hits, like the next day, gave it to me. And I was always really big on liner notes. Like I really loved, I loved liner notes. I loved reading lyrics and learning songs. I guess growing up also, I had notebooks like filled with, I would write the lyrics out when I heard a song on the radio. I used to like tape the top 40 countdown. Yeah. And I would just like listen for the ones that I really liked. And when they came on, I would record and immediately
hit that play and record button at the same time on the tape.
Button on the cassette, on the boombox. And then I would get my pens and paper out, and I would write the lyric out, try to learn the lyric really fast so that I would like be able to have the joy of like knowing the song, like the next time I heard it. Yeah. I was a nerd. So, I really loved that. And, so when I saw Dreams by Fleetwood Mac, Secondhand News was the first song on that record, and Dreams is track 2. And I just remember like looking at that lyric, and it looked different than the other records that I'd had. You know, it was like I remember the font, and I just remember it saying Nyx at the top. And I'm like, she wrote this. Like that was my first moment with like noticing that someone was a songwriter. And something about the cadence and the phrasing and the way that those lyrics even just looked on a page struck me. And that was when I started going from just like writing in my journals to like writing poetry and writing some lyrics and stuff down. So that added to that. So yeah, when I came to Nashville, I was just ready to find some trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what year did you move here then?
I moved here in 98.
Okay. Yeah. And went to Belmont. So then walk me through, what was it like after that? Like you'd started writing these poems and you shortly after that started a band here. Yes. And then got your first publishing deal. So how long did that process take?
I got my first publishing deal. It did not take long. I mean, I'm not really trying to be in the business of like looking back and correcting things, but I think it's cool. I will say this, when someone has to take a while before they get their first publishing deal, I think it is one of the most, it's such a gift that I didn't get. I was really good at acting like I knew what I was doing, and I didn't. And I got my publishing deal really quick. And I got into a lot of things quickly. So when I moved here, it was 1998. I started the band with my boyfriend, and I think we started doing our first shows in 99. And we quickly, it was the year 2000 in the spring. We got into the best of the best at Belmont. And when we performed at the Ryman, that was when I met my publisher, my first publisher, Russ Zavitson from Song Planet. Mm-hmm. And somebody's like, oh yeah, we're going to give you this really small amount of money and you're going to give us all your publishing. And I was just like, sounds good. Like, what is that? You're going to give me money to write songs? Like something that I would, to this day, I would be doing it for free. So I just couldn't believe that. Yeah. And I was super psyched. But that didn't take long. I mean, that took 2 years. Okay. Yeah. But like I said, it is a gift to anyone that's out there that is like going, when am I going to get my first big break? It's kind of taking so long, but you're getting a chance to like look at the business from all the sides and also take in other people's mistakes. Like, why did this happen for them? I saw that. I didn't want to do that. You know, I didn't do any of that. Personally, I had to learn everything the hard way. Yeah. Yeah. So, happened really quick. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess, you learned a lot and, and then it led you to where you are now. So totally. I mean, you've had such an amazing career already, and I know there's so much more to come. Let's start diving in a little bit with that. I want to hear about your solo career and how that kind of kicked off. Yeah. And then let's dive into a story behind the song, maybe Stupid Boy. Yeah. Okay. Well, a key character in my life that strung a lot of dots together for me was Leslie DePiro. She was a sister to me in so many ways. I met her at Song Planet, and she ended up starting another company after that called Tom Lee's Music. Right down here on 17th Avenue, the Jonas Group building was our publishing house. And, looking back, I was kind of subconsciously, I wasn't really aware of the tools that I had as a writer at first. There was just a lot of feelings, and I was always into like the rhythmic feeling of the words. Mm-hmm. But when I got in the room with real songwriters, I think I was pretty intimidated looking back. There was a lot of people that were a lot older than me. There was a lot of men. And I remember Leslie saying to me at the time, I mean, I went from the band thinking that I would then get a record deal. Like, I thought that I would be like, rock and roll was kind of, it wasn't like going away, but it was not very present. It was very pop.
Yeah.
Kind of, there was Michelle Branch at the time. I'm trying to remember, like, Corinne Bailey Rae. But like in country music, Gretchen Wilson hadn't come out. I mean, it was like more like Jamie O'Neill, Martina McBride, were the big Leanne Rimes.
Yeah.
Kind of things were going on. And, I was very much identified that that wouldn't necessarily be a country singer. But when I started writing with these people that Leslie was putting me in the rooms with, she's like, nothing can go wrong with sitting in the room with Jeffrey Steele.
Yeah.
You need to meet this guy. You know, you got to meet Craig Wiseman. You've got to meet Al Anderson, Bob DiPiero. And these guys like really took me under their wing and really very kind to me. And I remember the first time I wrote with Craig, he really loved I guess we started a song that neither one of us really liked very much. And Craig can be kind of a bulldog in the room. And I was just like, what is happening right now? At first he wasn't being so nurturing. And it was my reaction to him kind of being that way that like made him and I like begin this amazing friendship. We had started a song that I was just like, this is a country songwriter. He's going to do his thing. And so I kind of started singing this like little melody and he played this like bluegrass groove. Neither of us were digging. The song was not writing itself. And then I said, you know what, Craig? I was like, I don't really want to finish this. I was like, I don't like this. He's like, what? You're telling me at 3 p.m. that you don't want to finish this song? I was like, I hate this song. I was like, I would much rather start something else or like not finish this and not have anyone hear this than just finish. I was like, I don't like it. I don't think you like it either. And he was like, I don't. He's like, I don't write bluegrass music, you know? And I was like, well, you're the one holding the guitar. I was like, why don't we take the lyric? Why don't you play something you love on the guitar and we'll take the lyric and I'll do something I love with what we've written. And honestly, the song was called like, Where Are the Cowboys? And it was really funny. It was a funny song and we wrote it in like 20 minutes. And that was like the beginning of a lot of things for me. Craig at that point was like, you've got to meet Dan Huff. You've got to, this is our guy. Let's do this. And he hadn't started Big Loud yet, but he always felt like, he wanted to work with an artist from the ground up. And somehow that ended up being me at the time.
Wow.
So he put together a writing camp for me in Muscle Shoals with like John Scott Sherrill, like, yeah, Big Al Anderson, Bob DiPiero, just a bunch of guys. Yeah. And we had a great time, wrote a bunch of songs. I wrote with like everyone that year in Nashville. I really connected with Dave Berg. Great guy. We wrote Stupid Boy in that year. And we would meet with Dan Huff to like play songs. I was living up on Love Circle in a little house up there. And, I wrote Stupid Boy when I lived in that house. Dave Berg, years later, not knowing that I had lived there, ended up buying the house that I lived in when we wrote that song. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. He lives in the house where I lived when we wrote that song.
Wow.
But yeah, so I guess I'm trying to put all these pieces together. There was a lot of learning that happened. Like I could see that no one was really biting on what I was doing in New York and LA, but in Nashville they were.
Yeah.
It was just like, that was what was working. And so I started moving with that. I started singing a lot of demos for people. I sang a lot of demos for Rodney Clausen, who ended up being one of my main co-writers over at Big Loud. But I sang demos for everybody and I loved doing it.
Is that what led into, you've done background vocals on,
Yes.
With David Neal and FGL.
Yes. During that time, someone hired me to sing background vocals on a song I didn't sing lead on, and Perry Coleman and Kim Parent were the background vocalists that were in there with me. And I just remember Perry saying, "Girl, you are good. You're real good." He's like, "You could do this. Like you could, be a professional background singer." And honestly, I mean, what a gig. Like I still to this day, it's like just the best when somebody asks me to come sing on something. I these days, and even back then, I love being behind the scenes. Like for me, that was what the whole band thing was for me. Like I love being a part of something that everyone's doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was how I got into doing that. And, so one day, I noticed when I was younger and I was writing, the days were very much based on my life story. It was all about me. I was an artist. It was all about my feelings and my journals. And that's very different than the way that I approach songwriting these days. I enjoy songwriting these days a lot more than I did back then when all the pressure was on me. But there was great things. It's nice to walk into a room and have it be all about you and like what you're going through. And everybody's basically there to help you say what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Dave Berg was always somebody that was great at that to me at that time. He never made me feel like he was teaching me anything. We were like homies together writing a song. And when we wrote Stupid Boy, it was with also Deanna Bryant, who's another one of those. Just a great poet.
Yeah.
She was a great poet and loved playing the piano. And everybody in that room was very into like the magical feeling of a song. Nobody's like railroading it into any one thing.
Yeah.
I had gotten together that morning with my first ex-husband, and he had said some things to me that were baffling. And I walked into that co-write overtaken by this emotion. I was like, "You wouldn't believe what he said." And so I told them what he said, and I was like, "Stupid boy." And Dave was just like, "Stupid boy." And I go, "Oh yeah." All of a sudden I could feel the merge of like, to me, that was the title. And the feeling, once the feeling has a title, it's just off to the races.
Yeah.
There's like a feeling that you get. And sometimes in a writing room, it can take a long time to find that thread. It seems like everybody's writing a different song. But the most magical days are when you don't get the sense that anyone's trying to write a song and everyone's just like kind of joyfully finding the stream between the feeling and the title, and everybody's line, throwing things out. And it's kind of just it's a magical flow on certain days where you just can't deny that there's a higher power in the room. You just can't deny it. On that day, we wrote probably, I think there ended up being 2 verses, and at the end, there's like another beginning of a verse. But we wrote probably 6 different verses to that song. And this is before computers and like phones and stuff. So I wrote it on notebook paper, and we don't have those verses anymore, but we just ended up picking the ones that we liked the most and made a little like work tape of it that day that I remember it getting passed around town. There's always been, as long as I've lived in this town, every few years, there's like a song that ends up getting like passed around where other writer friends will have heard it. And that was like one of the first ones that I'd written.
Really?
That happened. And that's as gratifying as a feeling as having a song to me be a hit.
Yeah.
Is just having your friends come up and be like, "Oh my God, I heard that song and I loved it."
Yeah.
But yeah, so the day that we wrote that song, we didn't know who would end up recording it. It was like, will it be, no one's going to record a song called Stupid Boy. And I was like, well, I think I'll end up getting a record deal, maybe one of these days, and I'll record it. Like, whatever. We pitched it to the Dixie Chicks. They didn't want it, and it wasn't right for anybody else. So that was one of the first songs that I cut when I recorded with Dan Huff.
Really?
Yeah, and he ended up he was Keith Urban's producer at the time. And so it was either him or Betsy. Her name was Betsy Cook at the time. His day-to-day manager. I forget who played it. There's alternate stories. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But he heard it, and then he wanted to record it for himself, which was a total God thing, because it was not a man's song. Like, it was definitely written for a woman.
Yeah.
And he changed I'm the same old stupid boy to make it about himself. And I was blown away the first time I heard his recording of it. Like,
it's so good.
It's so good. And I was such a fan of him. I still am. But it was so good. I just cried and cried, and I was like, it couldn't be this easy every time. And guess what? It hasn't been. So,
but that got a Grammy.
Yes.
So, what was that like for you? Where were you when you found out it was being nominated?
Well, I don't remember where I was when I found out it was being nominated. But I remember him leaving me a voice message the night of the Grammys. He was in Australia. He wasn't there. And he was out on a drive. I'm pretty sure he was in a convertible. There was wind blowing. And he was just like, Bucks, won a Grammy. He's like, I just want to say thank you and just have so much gratitude. And so he just had reached out and left this beautiful voicemail.
That's so cool.
Like, across the world.
Yeah.
It was a great feeling. Yeah.
That's amazing.
He's awesome.
Let's talk a little bit about the publishing side. I mean, I've been close with Shane and Josh since before Smack was even thought about. Those guys have just always been good to especially the early days of the listening room, and they've built this amazing company. And it's fun for us that we get to do this 4-week series with Smack.
Yeah.
Talk to me about getting the deal here, and then I want to talk a little bit about your career and what it's like when you go into those writers' rooms, and how do you balance, like, when do you figure out, okay, this is a song for me, or this is a song to pitch to somebody else?
Those are great questions. Well, first of all, Shane and Josh, like, incredible humans.
Yeah.
Like, to be able to have the gift of being great songwriters,
Yep.
but also have the gift of community and knowing how to be connectors.
Mm-hmm.
Shane is incredible at that. He blows my mind. This company has a feeling of family to it. And I remember when I was getting ready to sign here, he was like, he let me know, those guys run it. I mean, it's Lee, it's Jeremy, it's Sam, it's Robin. They are the heart of Smack. He's like, I'm never there, but you can call me anytime. And it's true. Jeremy and I were actually at Big Loud together. So when I met with Smack and I'm having eye contact with Jeremy, I'm having memories of another great publishing company that I was at. And I just felt really drawn to the feeling of the team, and each person having their own flavor, and there being so much to draw from. Let alone, there were several writers here that I loved, but all of the new people that I've met. After something happened, in 2020, the songwriting community has changed in general over the years, but after 2020, and just coming from Concord, where there's no hub, it has been so nice to just be here when everybody meets out here for coffee and is just talking for 10 minutes before we go write. is so nice to just make eye contact with people and get some hugs, and everybody disperses to go do their work. You come downstairs after you're done writing, you can hear other people's songs. There's somebody celebrating, a song out there. There's just a great feeling to it. And that was what Shane said that he's tried so hard to create, is that feeling, and they've done an amazing job of it. Everybody feels like they're on a track and like caring here, but nobody feels competitive at this entire company. Like no one. I don't get that feeling from anyone. And that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
It's been an incredible place to be. And it's not surprising that they've been integral in getting the listening room. That's not surprising, because it seems like everywhere Shane goes, he's giving.
Yeah, 100%.
He's so giving.
Yeah.
I just think of him and I'm like, who could I give to today? That's Shane to me.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the early days. I mean, it's, before we started, you were talking about how just recently you've been playing the listening room a lot.
Yeah.
And that's amazing for us. And, that's kind of how it was with Shane in the early days. And, and then even as things started to progress and like, he's getting more success and they were starting Smack and all of that, like he would still show up and be like, hey, I think I'm going to bring Old Dominion. I think I'm going to bring, you name it.
Yeah.
Like, and he would just start bringing artists with him. I mean, it was, Shane, Josh, and Ross that brought Keith in. So those kind of things. They're just I love I love everything that you've said. And it's just, as an outsider that doesn't walk in these doors every day.
Yeah.
We have these beliefs of like, I think that's what Smack is all about. And to hear you say it is just I love that.
It is what they're all about. It is what they're all about.
Yeah.
It is what they're all about. And it's a great reminder, because I'm always trying to figure out how to be of service more. It can be such an insular job as a songwriter, it's just you. But that's a great thing, is like connecting, bringing people to things and like bringing awareness to, they're amazing at that. I try to tell everybody here all the time how thankful I am just to be here. I'm just like, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And everybody stays here. Anybody that comes here stays here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just the best. So to the artist versus songwriter thing, that's such an interesting question. I'm thankful. I love, like I said, I love writing songs these days more than I ever have. I love writing songs for numerous reasons. I have no problem. I'm not triggered on a day when somebody is like, let's try to be commercial. Let's aim for commercial. Let's aim for the radio. Let's write a swimming pool today. Some people are like, oh, I hate it when people say stuff like that. It doesn't bother me. I don't feel pressured by that. It helps me know where someone's head's at.
Sure.
And that to me has been, one of the gifts of like getting to do so many different things. I love singing background vocals and working with producers. I love thinking of things as an artist. I love thinking of things as an artist who's not worried about whether my record label is going to keep me, or like how popular something is.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite songs are ones my boyfriend and I have written for my dog this year. They're timeless classics, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I love writing for the fun of writing. It's very fun to craft a song. And so it took me a lot of years, though, going from being the artist who walks in with, it's so much about my feelings and it's about my story and like my problems. And I'm just, I don't know, it's like this vibe, like, it's a lot of pressure to be like the one in the room that everyone's like trying to do that around. At first, I felt like
does that feel like in that situation? Is it more so like it's like, who am I, a songwriter or a counselor? Is it that battle between like, okay, how do I write this best song, but also like
There can be that.
Yeah.
When I said that, I meant from my perspective of my memory of me being that way.
Okay. Yes.
I mean, when I was younger, being like, okay, I've got to bring in something really unique every day.
Yeah.
Now, I lots of times will go in with nothing. It's always good to come in with something, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
But you can come in with nothing and find from what someone's saying a key theme. And then I keep a list of titles like in my phone, just like every songwriter does. I love writing from a title, like a key anchoring point. I don't like just getting in there willy-nilly and just like vibing to find something. I do like writing from a title. I can write all day just about nonsense for sure.
Sure.
But it tends to be the ones that have like a theme that go the fastest and are the most gratifying for everybody. But it took me a lot of years, like I said, to get comfortable with being the catcher's mitt for someone else's feelings. Some of the first people I worked a lot with Juliana Huff. She was one of the first artists that I wrote a lot with. And I had a lot of fun with her. Because she was very proactive about like what she wanted to say. She was excited. It's nice to work with artists that know who they are and really know what they want to say. And she was the first one I ever worked with that did that. But she was also open to stuff. That's also fun. And I also feel like I wasn't quite done with my artistry when I first became a songwriter. When I gave up being an artist, it was because my feelings were hurt a little bit. I was busted. My time at Lyric Street was really rough. They were some of the worst years of my life.
Yeah.
I remember the people that I loved at that time that were a help to me because they were a life raft for me. Having people that brought humor and lightness to what felt like my dreams were dying in front of my eyes. I remember those characters and just like, I feel like I should write them all letters just saying, you were an angel to me. Some key people. So when I decided to be a songwriter, it was more like, you know what? I want to have babies. I just don't feel like this is going in the direction that I want it to go. I'm not happy with what I've done. I think I want to take a break and just be at home and like have some kids and just write songs. And so at first it was like I was looking at Hillary Lindsay. I was looking at Natalie Hemby. What are they doing? You know, kind of like watching what they were doing. And that was my first inroad to kind of conceptualizing like how I would think of it. But what I've learned is that it doesn't matter what they're doing. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. It's like what I've learned is like each piece of from the background vocals, you know, I can bring that to a day. I can start an idea for a song over like a chord progression and having a little background vocal hook. That's enough to start a song. The other thing that's enough to start a song is just being a good listener. Listening really good to the words that are coming out of someone's mouth.
Yeah.
That's key. It's enough to be a good rhymer. I mean, I learned a lot watching when I would watch Liz Rose write songs. She always has a pad of paper and she's just like a beautiful mind over here, just jotting things down. She just doesn't stop writing words, having words in front of her. I learned about that from writing with her. It's enough to start a song with someone that has 3 great lines that everyone loves and leave and come back to it. You know, all the pressure doesn't have to be on that one day.
Yeah.
It's taken me a lot of time to realize that like what's going to happen is going to happen. And sometimes it's just about like getting out of the way. I have anxiety. Like I'm noticing like during this podcast, I'm even thinking like, if we could just start right over right now. That's something I'm thinking about right now is like, boy, if we could just like cut and like start this over.
Really?
I would tell all these stories differently. But that's what I love about songwriting.
Yeah.
Is you can do that. You can do whatever you want. Like you can say, guys, I know we've been sitting here for an hour, but what if the hook was more of this, and you can do that. There's no shame.
I thought about earlier when you were talking about Craig, like, what would things look like today for you?
Starting
if
over?
If you hadn't just said, Craig, I hate the song.
I know.
Like, what if you would have finished that song and walked out the room, and then he would have been like, okay, I don't want to write with Sarah anymore. Like, what, like who knows?
Oh, it would have been a lot different. Yeah. It would have been a lot different. And I always feel like a lot of responsibility. And it's good to know that like the coolest things that ever happen just don't have much to do with me. It's just about being there, being a part of the dance of it all, It's just not, it just doesn't have as much to do with me.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Brit Skin Beauty. Located in the beautiful Indulgence Medi Spa in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, Brittany is the go-to esthetician for facials, dermaplaning, microdermabrasion, waxing, lashes, and any skincare products and consultations. So many people in the music industry use her frequently, and her work speaks for itself. To schedule your next consultation or make an appointment, visit britskinbeauty.com or send an email to britskinbeauty@gmail.com.
So you've touched on the fact of like, just how you can use all these different avenues to come up with your lyrics and songs. So then take me into your mind of like, where is it on those rides? Of course, it's, if you walk in and there's a pitch list that, you're writing commercially for X.
Sure.
But in those moments where you just come in and you're looking at your notes app and bouncing ideas around, like when do you figure out, okay, this is a song for me, or this is a song that I would want somebody else to record?
That's great. I feel like I know at the onset of a song if it's for me.
Just from the hook?
Just from the hook.
Okay.
No, from the feeling.
Okay.
I feel like there's usually like, it's like a wind. I don't know how to describe this. I'm going to say it feels like a wind is whipping through me. It feels like there's like a ribbon of something that comes through where it does feel a bit unbridled, and I don't feel, any pressure. And often it's like there's something cool about it where nobody cares if anybody cuts it, because we love it that much.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that I love the most, is like when you're writing something and immediately you just are like, you don't care. I will say I have a thing where once I decide to record something, and there's something that happens where I go through this self-deprecating process. I don't know if this will be the case the next time I record something. I don't know. But this is the way that it tends to be, is that I work on something and I just end up getting I get so close looking at it that I wonder, is this anything? Is this good at all? At first, it feels so inspired. And then I'm like, I don't have any reference to, I can't see it anymore. And it's left me. It's left. The song is now not mine. And I should write this down and remember that once I have the feeling that it's not mine anymore, it's probably very important to put it out, because I'm actually needing to hear myself say that today, because I actually was working on some songs last year that I've been like, I don't know, but like, it's like, it's not about this self-important feeling to me. It's more like about, it was here, it came to me, and then I'm supposed to like let go of it. And as long as I'm still holding it, I'm still holding it. I can't let go of it and let it belong to other people until I put it out.
Yeah.
But the part that I don't like is promoting myself. There is nothing that I like about that.
Yeah.
It's so unfortunate because some people just really love that. They love the packaging and like thinking of how things will go and the marketing aspect.
Yeah.
Not this girl.
Yeah.
No, I really don't. I don't enjoy that whatsoever. And so once the music part of it has been explored and then it's getting into that realm, I'm just like, it's a real discipline for me to see it through.
Yeah. I want to touch on this just a little bit. Cause that made me think of, there's so many times where I walk out of a writer's room and have that feeling of like, this is such a great song.
Mm-hmm.
But then after I sit with it for a while, I'm like, it kind of shifts for me. And I'm like, I don't know. Kind of the same kind of thing that you're thinking about. But then on the flip side, I've also walked out and just been like, okay, it was an okay, right? But I'll never do anything with that song. And then I'll find myself 2 weeks later humming a song in the shower or something. And I'm like, what is that?
I know.
And then it's like, oh my gosh, it's that. And then it starts to grow on me. Does that happen to you too?
Yes.
Okay.
It absolutely does. Yeah. I had a really tough write this year that was like so not enjoyable. And I was singing it for like weeks. Nothing's happened with it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. But I noticed like yesterday I took a song into my write. One thing that I really love is I like I said, I don't know, there's a theme here. It's called anxiety. I put pressure on myself.
Yeah.
And I find that the only way for me to exist in the music business anymore, I'm not mystified by the fame of things and of course I want to provide. Of course money is important to me. I want to be able to keep doing this and I want to be able to feed my children. But I'm not as taken by the shinier aspects of the music industry as I used to be. So what keeps me going forward? My relationships with people. Like I said, I still have that feeling when I'm making and I'm singing with and I'm a part of something. Mm-hmm. I still love that community feeling, even if it's a community of two, just us working on something. I still really love that brotherhood, sisterhood.
Yeah.
But what keeps me going is process. And my biggest hero for a process is my friend Daniel Tashin. Every day he's working on something. He's got something that he's doing. And when we talk about process. And he's one of my favorite people to talk to in that way because we talk about these things.
Yeah.
I love the idea of showing up someplace and putting my hands out and saying, all right, God, let me be of service and let me just be an instrument today of something. And I put my hands out. So it's like, I'll go, okay, I'm putting words together today. Today I'm thinking of 2 different words and I'm putting them together in these different ways and I'm going to write about that. Or today I'm going to sit down at the piano and hum. Whatever it is, just start something every day. Start a little something.
Yeah.
And I can devote myself to that. I can devote myself to being of service. I can devote myself to listening better, starting something, and then letting go of what happens. I can be a part of something like that.
Yeah. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's, we've just got a little bit of time left. I'd love to talk a little bit if you want to jump into another story behind one of your songs. I mean, you've written some of my favorite songs, Put You in a Song that you wrote for Keith as well, Sundays for FGL, Fix, Chris Lane, That's Why I Pray, Big and Rich.
Oh,
I mean, I've got a full list here but just pick one, maybe talk about one that you feel like has another great story of how you came up with that idea and what it was like in the room writing it that day.
Well, can I make a story that includes 2 songs?
Sure. Yeah.
So I want to talk about my co-writer, who's passed away, Abe Stoklasa.
Okay.
Because you said Fix. I was thinking we would talk about Sundays, but I want to talk about Fix.
Okay.
We wrote Fix, from this free place. Like Jesse Frazier at the time. I don't think Jesse had any hits at the time. I'm pretty sure he didn't. He was over at Major Bob, and he has a background in DJing, and he comes up with these big tracks. He's like very fun. There's always a fun energy. He gets his head bobbing, and he's like has candles going. It's like, and he had this track, and Abe is an incredible singer. Abe, this is what I love about writing with Abe. Like, you always know there's going to be a flavor of, like, he's always like, we're better. We're better than anybody. We're the best songwriters in this town today. He's like, that was his vibe.
Yeah.
And it was always so fun to work with. And you knew that he was either going to always try to write something that was the most artistic or the most commerciality. That was like it was never one or the other. It's like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
How are we going to be great? And so he had this like, like inflated sense of self, which was also very charming and fun. When we wrote Fix, like, we had no idea as we started that song where it was going. We had no hook. And it was like, hey girl, we just began this lyric and it just meandered. We were just giggling, honestly. Everyone's just giggling as the song is coming together, just line by line. And I was watching Breaking Bad at the time. So somehow we started talking about, I've got your fix. Like, there was this like druggy theme to it. So yeah, we had no idea where it was going. This Walter White high. We were like, who is ever going to cut this song? We don't know who's ever going to cut this. And I sang the background vocals on it. And it was like this amazingly fun day that, you feel when you would listen to the demo. So obviously that ended up translating. And Chris, it's a hard song to sing, and he sang it really well. I have a hard time singing that song, and I have quite a range. So good job, Chris Lane, for, singing an Abe song.
And his first number one hit.
And it was his first number one hit. But fast forward years later to a really hard day that I had. And here I was again with two close friends trying to write a song. And this was a day where we were not thinking about pitching this song to anybody. We were just like getting a feeling out. I had to leave the room. It was just called Ocean. Lady A ended up recording it.
Yeah.
And I just remember being so emotional that day, and I kept leaving the room almost like having to feel like I was going to throw up. I'm very dramatic, as you can tell. That's quite a dramatic thing to say, but it was true. And Abe in that room, and Fix, we're having so much fun, and it's like he's singing it, and there was this like high fives feeling. And then here we are on another day catching this other wind in our sail.
Yeah.
And they were the ones propping me up, helping me feel. And we found this song, on that day. And they were just like, helping me. That it was like what friends do. It's like, sometimes we go do this, sometimes we go do that. And I remember on that day having a lot of shame around that song because the feeling, it was so imprinted to me with the feeling. I find that still as a songwriter, it's hard for me to get away from that feeling that I had as an artist, where each song almost has personality or like a scent to it or something. There's just this feeling. And to me, that song just was embarrassing because it was like a really hard thing to write about. And I remember when I turned the song in, my publisher, Matt Turner at Big Loud, wrote back, "Wow," with a period. And I remember the way I interpreted that was like, he's like, he hates it. And he's like, wow, that's really emotional. And
Yeah.
I interpret it like, ugh, cringe. Wow.
Yeah. Why the period instead of the exclamation point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, and they ended up loving it. Like they ended up loving it. But I just remember at first just feeling like no one's going to like this. That is a theme for me, is like not being able to separate sometimes the feeling of the day. So it's important for me to have a lot of people around me that I can bounce things off of, because I still approach, even though now I have this tool belt and I can look at things from a neutral place and I can go in and help you, I still deep down have that, like, I'm a weird artist. I don't know what I'm doing at the end of the day sometimes, and it's just like she doesn't show up all the time. But when she does, it's still a part of who I am. And so I just count on having good people around me that I can run things by, and they can be like, here's the mirror. No, it's good. Like, you're good. We love this.
Yeah.
I have that with, there's a song I wrote this year recently that was something I started. It was from a vulnerable place, and I started in the shower, and it's like, I have this feeling like, and I brought it into the right, and they really liked it. And I did get the feeling like, okay, this is a good song. But yeah, then turning it into my publisher and having him calling back, like crying and saying, oh my gosh. And it's like, really? You like it? I mean, every time it's like I'm genuinely surprised. I don't know.
Well, I think, like that emotion behind it is what allows you to create such beauty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, if you lost all that, the songs would be like, oh yeah, they're good. It's that emotion, I feel like, because you just keep doing it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't lose that.
Gotta trust that.
Yeah.
It's part of the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it is part of the thing. And it's funny, all the most important lessons of my life are the ones that I keep having to learn over and over. And that's one of them, and it's interesting how that works. It's like, okay, this might be something that I'm working on for quite a while, but remembering that the emotions and it's not a bad thing,
Yep.
It's okay. It's good to have reins on it and be able to like tuck it put it in a little suitcase at the corner. If somebody's like, my idea today is, hey girl, or whatever. Okay, let's put these feelings back there. That's what we're doing today, because that's what this person wants to do.
Sure.
I can still do that, but.
Yep. What's next for you with your solo stuff?
I don't know. I feel like at this point, I do have these songs from last year that I'm kind of wondering if I'm going to put out. I still don't know if I will.
Yep.
I have been off of social media since May.
How's that been?
It's been amazing.
I bet.
When I think about putting music out, it kind of puts this thing in my mind like I need to get back on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I have grief around that.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I get that it's good. I get that there's ways to do it where it can be good. And I have found ways that are, but I find that it's more than good for me. I love not knowing what someone's been up to when I haven't seen them for a long time. I love not knowing, I loved going through the election process, not being on social media. I loved that.
I bet. Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was just like, it's great. I have my news sources I can turn to for things, but I'm not being like barraged
Sure.
by things, and I'm not having to like compare myself to other people's lives.
Yeah.
So for me, I think this year is going to be full of, like I said, process and just showing up day by day. I might be releasing and recording some music. I had some things that I was working on, like these little affirmations that I was doing. They weren't songs. This is what I'm talking about, Chris. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm like out there right now, but, they weren't songs. They were like little 1.5 minute long moments that I was going to also mix with some songs. So all that to say, I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure.
All right. Well, we'll be watching.
Yeah.
And, and we'll definitely put links to the stuff that you have put out in this, because it's amazing, and make sure that everybody listening checks that out. But thanks again for just sharing part of this. I always end on this question. So everything that you've gone through and where you are today, if you could go back to Kansas, to 8-year-old Sarah, what advice would you give yourself today?
Oh my God, that makes me want to cry. I would look at her and say, stop trying to, I would just look at her and just say, you don't have to impress anyone. You don't have to, you don't have to look for approval. You don't have to be in a good mood. You don't have to have the answers. You don't have to say the right things. I would just say you're an artistic girl. You're different in that way, and it's okay. Like, don't overthink it. Like, it's okay that you don't feel like doing certain things. You may not need to do those things.
Yeah.
I think if I could go back and be as comfortable in my skin as I am at that age, and just say, what would it be like if you weren't worried about being pretty? What would it be like if you weren't worried about, being at the top? What music would you make if you didn't get frustrated with yourself for not being able to have as much success as they thought you would have? What would it be like to move through the world, letting the process and just your creativity and your just self-worth be like the most important thing? I can't even imagine. But I guess I could start today. And that's maybe why I came here.
There you go. That's
why was I doing this podcast today?
That's it.
This maybe just to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would that be like? Because I just feel like my son told me this morning, he's like, Mom, you as a songwriter, that's just part of you. He's like, if you had never had any success, you would have still been good. You would have still been good. He's like, you're just good by being you. It's like, I know that's
How old is he?
He's 9.
A brilliant 9-year-old.
He's 9, and it is true. This business is full of like trying to be so shiny and impressive, but there are little cozy corners where maybe that's not as much the case. And those are probably the corners you might find me in the future.
I love it. Well, thanks again, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we want to thank Smack for letting us do this. Just everything that you're saying is just such a great story. And we're just glad to share it.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody out there for listening. This has been another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. I'm Chris Blair. You've been listening to Sarah Buxton, and we will see you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. Make sure to give us a follow on Spotify if you enjoyed this episode, and make sure you click that notification button so you can keep notified when new episodes come out. We release brand new episodes every Tuesday, and you can find us on YouTube at Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to send us a comment letting us know what you thought of the episodes. We love getting your feedback, and share this with your friends. The more we grow, the more that we can keep doing this. It's our mission to bring you all of these great stories behind the songs from some of Nashville's most iconic artists and songwriters, publishers, producers, everyone in between, and a lot of my great friends. We love what we do, and we love sharing their stories with you. We appreciate all of the continued support. Thanks also to all of our sponsors, and we will see you all next week.